All right, so today we're diving into something pretty cool.
Yeah?
We're looking at all this info about learning English with podcasts.
Cool.
And it seems like everyone's talking about it these days.
It's really popular.
It is, and one of these sources even mentioned that professionals
Oh, yeah.
who are fluent in English,
Yeah.
they earn like 20% more than their peers on average.
Wow, that's significant.
It is. It's a big incentive to learn English.
Yeah, it's not just about communication anymore. It's like a key to better opportunities.
Exactly. And using podcasts to learn, it's like a super sneaky way to learn
Right.
while you're doing everyday stuff.
Multitasking at its best.
It is. What made you interested in this whole learning with podcasts thing?
Well, for me, the biggest thing is that it's authentic.
Yeah.
You get to hear real conversations in different accents,
Yeah.
not just that textbook English.
Right. It's funny. One of the sources actually talked about how podcasts can train your ear
Uh-huh.
to like the rhythm and flow of English.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that's a game changer when it comes to sounding natural.
It is. So I got to ask, have you ever heard of this technique called shadowing?
Oh, yeah. Shadowing's awesome.
Yeah.
It's like you're mimicking the speaker in real time.
Like a copycat.
Exactly. You try to repeat what they say almost simultaneously. It helps with pronunciation and rhythm.
Sounds like a workout for your tongue.
It can be, but it really works.
Challenging but rewarding.
Exactly.
And the cool thing is there's a podcast out there for pretty much anything you're interested in.
That's the best part. You can find something you genuinely enjoy.
Right. So you're not forcing yourself to listen to stuff you hate.
Exactly. When you enjoy it, learning becomes a pleasure.
Okay, so let's get into some specific techniques. What do you think about using transcripts along with the audio?
Oh, transcripts are super helpful, especially for beginners. It's like having the subtitles for the podcast.
I like that subtitles for a podcast, so you can read along while you listen.
Yeah, and it helps with vocabulary, too. You can look up words you don't know.
That makes sense. So it's not just about listening, but also reading and understanding.
Exactly. It reinforces what you're hearing.
Makes it stick.
Yeah.
So besides transcripts, any other cool techniques you've come across?
Well, taking notes is a classic, but it really works.
Oh, yeah. Why do you think note-taking is so effective?
Well, it forces you to actually pay attention and process what you're hearing.
So you're not just zoning out.
No, you're actively engaging with the content.
It's like having a conversation with a podcast.
Kinda. Like you're asking questions and looking for answers.
And speaking of questions, one source mentioned that it's good to ask yourself questions while you listen.
Oh, yeah, that's a great way to stay focused and think critically.
Like, what did I just learn?
Yeah.
Or how does this connect to what I already know?
Exactly. It helps you make those connections and really understand the material.
This might sound obvious, but one source emphasized choosing podcasts that match your level.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You don't want to jump into something too advanced.
So if you're a beginner, start with the beginner podcasts.
It's exactly. There are tons of podcasts specifically designed for English learners.
Right, with slower speaking speeds and simpler language.
Yeah, and as you improve, you can move on to more challenging podcasts.
It's like leveling up in a video game.
Exactly.
You got to start at level 1 before you can conquer the boss.
Right. It's all about building a solid foundation.
And just like in a video game, you need to keep practicing.
Consistency is key.
Right, even short bursts of listening every day can make a difference.
Absolutely. It's about making it a habit.
One source even recommended scheduling a specific time for listening each day.
That's a great idea. It makes it part of your routine.
Like brushing your teeth, but for your English skills.
Exactly.
So we've covered a lot of ground already.
Yeah, we have.
It's amazing how much there is to learn about learning English with podcasts.
It's just the tip of the iceberg.
It is, and it's exciting to think about all the possibilities.
Definitely. This is just the beginning.
So to help our listeners get started, let's talk about some specific podcast recommendations.
Okay, sounds good.
Earlier, you mentioned podcasts for beginners.
Yeah, for absolute beginners. The English We Speak from the BBC is fantastic.
Okay. The English We Speak, BBC. Got it. What's so good about it?
Well, it focuses on everyday expressions and vocabulary.
Ah, so
Wow.
stuff you can actually use.
Exactly. And the episodes are short and engaging.
Perfect for busy people.
Exactly.
Now, what about for folks who are maybe a little more intermediate?
For intermediate learners, I always recommend Luke's English podcast.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that one. What makes it so special?
Well, Luke is hilarious. He makes learning English fun.
So it's not boring.
Not at all. He also does a great job of explaining grammar and vocabulary.
So it's both entertaining and educational.
Exactly.
Now, for the advanced learners out there, what would you recommend?
For advanced learners, I'd say TED Talks Daily is a must-listen.
TED Talks. Interesting. Why that one?
Well, it covers a wide range of topics, so
They
there's
sure
something for everyone.
exactly. And you get exposed to different accents and
Makes you
perspectives.
think.
It does. The content is really thought-provoking. So, The English We Speak for Beginners, Luke's English Podcast, for Intermediate and TED Talks Daily, for the advanced learners.
That's a great starting point.
It is, and it's amazing how podcasts can open up a whole world of knowledge.
They really do. It's like having access to a library of information right in your pocket.
It is, and it's not just information, it's about connecting with people and cultures.
Absolutely. Podcasts can transport you to different parts of the world and introduce you to different ways of thinking.
It's like a passport to a global community.
Exactly. And the best part is you can start exploring this world today.
You can. Just pick a podcast that interests you and hit play.
That's all it takes. It's as easy as that.
It really is incredible how much you can learn from podcasts.
It is.
But sometimes it can feel a little overwhelming.
I know what you mean. There's so much out there.
There is. So one of the things I kept seeing in these sources was the idea of starting small.
Yeah, that's good advice. Don't try to do too much at once.
Right. Like, don't jump into listening to hours of podcasts every day.
Exactly. Start with maybe 15 or 20 minutes a day and see how you feel.
And as you get more comfortable, you can gradually increase the time.
Yeah, just like with anything new, it's best to ease into it.
Makes sense. Now, another thing that popped up a lot was this idea of active listening.
Oh yeah, that's super important. It's not just about passively hearing the words.
So it's more than just having it on in the background while you do chores.
Exactly. You need to be engaged with the content.
So what are some ways to do that?
Well, taking notes is a good one.
Yeah, I can see how that would help keep you focused.
It does. You're forced to think about what you're hearing and process the information.
Or even just summarizing the main points in your head.
Yeah, or pausing the podcast and reflecting on what you just learned.
So it's like taking those mental breaks to make sure you're actually absorbing the information.
Exactly.
One source even suggested repeating sections that you find challenging.
Oh yeah, repetition is key for language learning.
It's like when you're learning a new song, you got to listen to it over and over again.
Exactly. Until it gets stuck in your head.
And then you can sing along perfectly.
Right. Well, maybe not perfectly, but you get the idea.
Speaking of new things, one of the sources talked about using podcasts to learn new vocabulary.
Oh yeah, that's a great way to expand your vocabulary.
But how do you actually do that? Like, you're listening and you hear a word you don't know.
Well, first, don't just ignore it. Pause the podcast and write it down.
Okay, so take notes even for vocabulary.
Yeah. Then try to figure out the meaning from the context.
You use those detective skills.
Exactly. And if you're still not sure, look it up in a dictionary.
Or Google it.
Right. And then the most important step, try to use the word yourself.
So don't just let it sit there in your notebook. Make it an active part of your vocabulary.
Exactly.
Now, this might sound a little intimidating, but one of the sources actually encouraged listening to podcasts with different accents.
Oh, yeah. I know it can be challenging, but it's so beneficial.
Why is that?
Well, think about it. English is spoken all over the world.
It is. It's like a global language.
Exactly. And people from different regions have different accents.
So if you only ever listen to one accent,
You're missing out on a lot.
and you might have trouble understanding people with different accents.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So the more accents you expose yourself to, the better your listening comprehension will be.
Makes sense. Now, I know a lot of people get nervous about speaking English, especially if they're not fluent yet.
Oh yeah, that's totally normal.
But one of the sources really emphasized the importance of not being afraid to make mistakes.
Mistakes are part of the learning process.
Everyone makes them.
Exactly. It's how we learn and improve.
So don't let the fear of making a mistake stop you from practicing.
Exactly. The more you practice, the better you'll get.
And the more confident you'll feel.
Exactly.
Speaking of practice, one of the sources suggested finding a language partner.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea. Having someone to practice with can make a big difference.
But where do you find a language partner?
Well, there are lots of online communities and forums dedicated to language learning.
So you can connect with people from all over the world.
Exactly. And you can even find people who are interested in the same podcasts as you.
So you can discuss the content and practice your speaking skills.
Exactly. It's a win-win situation.
It is. Now, I know it's easy to get caught up in the excitement of learning a new language
It is.
and want to become fluent as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I've been there.
But one of the sources really stressed the importance of setting realistic goals.
That's crucial. Don't expect to become fluent overnight.
Right. It's a journey, not a sprint.
Exactly. It's about making steady progress and celebrating small victories along the way.
And speaking of the journey, One of the sources talked about the importance of patience and persistence.
Oh yeah, those are key ingredients for language learning.
Because it's not always easy,
It's not. It can be challenging at times.
but it's worth it.
It is.
Yeah.
If you stick with it, you'll see results.
So don't give up. Just keep practicing and keep listening.
Exactly. And remember why you started learning English in the first place.
What are some of the benefits that people can look forward to?
Well, one of the biggest benefits is improved listening comprehension.
So you'll be able to understand English better when you hear it.
Exactly. You'll be able to follow conversations, movies, TV shows, all that good stuff.
It's like unlocking a whole new world of entertainment.
It is.
Yeah.
And not just entertainment, you'll be able to understand people from different cultures.
Yeah, that's a huge benefit in today's world.
It is.
Uh.
And it can open up so many opportunities.
Another benefit that came up a lot was improved pronunciation.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one. Listening to podcasts can really help with your pronunciation.
Because you're hearing how native speakers pronounce words.
Exactly. And you start to mimic those sounds without even realizing it.
It's like osmosis for pronunciation.
Kinda.
And of course, we can't forget about vocabulary.
Right? Podcasts are a goldmine for vocabulary.
Because you're exposed to so many different words and phrases.
Exactly. And if you actively try to learn new words, you can significantly expand your vocabulary.
And that will make you a more confident and fluent speaker.
Exactly.
Now, one of the benefits that I found really interesting was cultural awareness.
Oh, yeah. Podcasts can teach you so much about different cultures.
Because you're hearing from people from all over the world.
Exactly. You're exposed to different accents, different slang, different ways of thinking.
It's like taking a virtual trip around the world.
It is. You can learn so much about different countries and cultures just by listening to podcasts.
And that can make you a more well-rounded and understanding person.
Exactly.
Another benefit that came up several times was confidence building.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one. The more you practice listening and speaking, the more confident you'll become.
Because you'll start to see progress.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You'll be able to understand more. You'll be able to speak more fluently.
And that will give you the confidence to use your English in real-life situations.
Exactly.
One of the sources even mentioned critical thinking skills.
Oh, yeah. That's an interesting one.
So how do podcasts help with critical thinking?
Well, a lot of podcasts discuss complex topics and present different perspectives.
So you're not just passively listening.
No, you're actively thinking about the issues and forming your own opinions.
It's like a mental workout.
Exactly. It challenges you to think critically and analyze information.
And it helps you develop your own voice.
Exactly.
And believe it or not, one source mentioned improved memory.
Really? That's fascinating.
Yeah, apparently the act of actively listening and trying to remember information can actually improve your memory function.
So it's like a workout for your brain.
It is. And it's all thanks to podcasts.
Who knew?
So we've talked about the importance of active listening, setting realistic goals, and all the amazing benefits.
Yeah, we've covered a lot.
But how do you actually make podcasts a part of your daily routine?
Well, one of the best things you can do is find a dedicated time and space for listening.
So treat it like an appointment.
Exactly. Schedule it into your day, just like you would schedule a workout or a meeting.
And find a place where you can focus without distractions.
Yeah. Create your own little podcast sanctuary.
I like that. Another tip that came up a lot was using headphones.
Oh, yeah. Headphones are great for blocking out noise.
And immersing yourself in the audio.
Exactly. It's like having your own private concert.
But instead of music, it's English lessons.
Right.
One source also recommended varying your listening material.
Oh, yeah, that's important. Don't just listen to the same type of podcast all the time.
So mix it up.
Exactly. Explore different genres, different accents, different topics.
It's like having a balanced diet for your ears.
Exactly. Keep it interesting.
And if you find yourself struggling to understand something, don't be afraid to take breaks or revisit material.
Repetition is key.
Right. It's better to listen to something multiple times and really understand it.
Than to just skim through it and not absorb anything.
And remember, podcasts are super portable.
They are. You can listen to them anywhere.
So take advantage of that. Listen while you're commuting.
Or exercising.
While doing chores.
Exactly. Turn those everyday activities into opportunities to learn English.
And if you're looking for extra support or motivation, one source recommended joining online communities.
Oh, yeah. Those can be really helpful.
Because you can connect with other learners.
And share tips and advice.
And you can even find language partners to practice with.
Exactly. It's a great way to stay motivated and accountable.
And don't forget about all the amazing podcast apps out there.
Right. There are so many great apps with features like speed control.
which is super helpful if the podcast is too fast.
Exactly. And transcripts.
So you can read along while you listen.
And vocabulary lists.
So you can keep track of new words.
Yeah, those features can make a big difference.
Now, even though podcasts are a fantastic tool for learning English,
They are.
let's be real, there are some challenges.
There are.
One of the biggest challenges that people mention was understanding different accents.
Oh, yeah, that can be tough.
Yeah.
Especially if you're not used to it.
But don't worry, it gets easier with practice.
It does. The more you listen, the more your ear will adjust.
And don't be afraid to start with podcasts that have clearer pronunciation.
Yeah, there are plenty of podcasts out there that are designed for English learners.
So start with those and gradually work your way up to more challenging accents.
Exactly.
Now, another challenge that came up a lot was staying motivated and consistent.
Yeah, that's a common one for any new habit.
So what are some tips for staying on track?
Well, first of all, remember why you started learning English.
Right. What are your goals?
Exactly. What do you want to be able to do with your English?
And visualize those goals. Imagine yourself achieving them.
That can be really motivating.
And make sure you're choosing podcasts that you actually enjoy.
Yeah, if you're not interested in the content, you're less likely to stick with it.
So find something that sparks your curiosity.
Exactly.
And don't be afraid to experiment with different podcasts until you find ones that you love.
Exactly. It's like finding your favorite band.
You got to try a few before you find the one that really speaks to you.
Right.
Now, I know sometimes it can feel like you're not making any progress.
I've been there.
But trust me, you are making progress even if you don't see it right away.
Exactly. It's a gradual process.
So be patient and celebrate those small victories.
Yeah, like when you understand a new word or when you can follow a conversation a little bit better.
Those are all signs that you're moving in the right direction.
Exactly.
Now, one of the most common challenges that people face
Yeah.
is finding the time for podcast listening.
I get it. Everyone's busy these days.
But even if you can only squeeze in 15 minutes here and there,
It's better than nothing.
it all adds up.
Exactly. So look for those little pockets of time in your day
Like during your commute,
or while you're doing chores.
or even while you're getting ready in the morning.
Exactly. Make the most of every minute.
Okay, so we've talked about the challenges, but let's not forget about all the incredible benefits.
Right. The benefits far outweigh the challenges.
They do. So what are some of the things that podcasts can help you achieve?
Well, as we've already discussed, they can help you improve your listening comprehension.
Right, you'll be able to understand English better when you hear it.
Exactly. And they can also help you improve your pronunciation.
Yeah, because you're hearing how native speakers pronounce words.
Exactly. And you're starting to mimic those sounds.
And of course, podcasts can help you expand your vocabulary.
Oh, yeah. You're exposed to so many new words and phrases.
And if you actively try to learn those words, you can really boost your vocabulary.
Exactly.
But it's not just about language skills.
Right. Podcasts can also help you develop cultural awareness.
Yeah, because you're hearing from people from different cultures.
Exactly. You're exposed to different accents, different customs, different ways of thinking.
It's like taking a virtual tour of the world.
It is. And it can really broaden your horizons.
And one of the most important benefits of learning English with podcasts is increased confidence.
Oh, yeah. That's huge. The more you practice, the more confident you'll become.
Because you'll start to see progress.
Exactly. You'll be able to understand more. You'll be able to speak more fluently.
And that will give you the confidence to use your English in real-life situations.
Exactly.
It's amazing, isn't it, how podcasts can make you feel like you're part of something bigger.
Yeah, it's like a global community.
It is. One of the sources actually talked about how podcasts can connect you with people from all over the world.
It's true. You find people who share your interests even if they live miles away.
And you can learn so much from each other.
Definitely. It's like having a conversation with the world.
It is. And it's not just about language learning. It's about personal growth, too.
It expands your horizons.
It does. You know, one of the sources mentioned how learning English can empower you to engage with global issues.
That's so important. Being able to communicate with people from different backgrounds can really make a difference.
It can. And it allows you to contribute to solutions on a global scale.
Yeah, it breaks down those communication barriers.
It does. So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
what's the one thing you really hope our listeners take away from all of this?
I'd say the most important thing is to enjoy the process. You know, learning English shouldn't feel like a chore.
It shouldn't.
It should be fun and engaging. And podcasts can definitely help with that.
They can. So find those podcasts that you love.
Yeah, the ones that make you excited to learn.
The ones that spark your curiosity.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment and try different things.
And remember, every little step you take is a step towards fluency.
It is. So keep practicing, keep listening, and most importantly, keep enjoying the journey.
Well said. That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the world of learning English with podcasts.
You're welcome. It was fun.
It was. And to all our listeners out there, happy listening.